Good afternoon, everyone. It appears that we have a quorum. We're 2 minutes after. Thanks for joining us. My name is Dave Hodgins. I will be the facilitator today. Thanks for joining us. I lead the LA Better Buildings Challenge. For those of you that we don't know already, we've been doing this work, helping the city and the utility try to really engage more effectively with customers and those who help to seek to help to seek them towards their energy and climate goals. That's you guys. How can we all be successful, decarbonize our buildings and make money in the process? So thanks everyone for joining us. Oh, Heather, next slide, please. Okay, I forgot I wasn't controlling the slide as I usually do. So we, LA Resource Center, aptly named, it's been in place for going on 5 years now, I believe. If you could go back, please. All right. That's the web address there. The site has been updated recently to reflect the current state of affairs as they currently stand. As you see there on the screenshot, the December 1st deadline is in effect. So we've been kind of waiting for this. Those of us that have been watching this, you guys, I think, have for a while. It's been pushed a few times, is now in effect. And so you probably got clients that have been, do I need to move forward? Do I not? I'm hoping to give you some certainty today, and I'll just cut to it. Yes, move ahead. It will count. So, okay, next slide, please. This was the calm before the storm. I think I'm in this picture somewhere in the back trying to poke my head out. But LA really wants to continue to lead on policy. At the time that this was put in place, it was the most aggressive such policy in the country. I think maybe even in the world. That's not the case anymore. So now, the guys that work in New York or DC or San Francisco, they've got more stringent requirements even than LA does now. Anyway, the teeth are starting to kick in with this, the rubber meet the road, whatever you want to use. And they are talking about, joining the Building Performance Standard Club. So it would not be a shock if that were to come. So another big signing with the next mayor, whoever that is. Next, please. So you guys, as you know, it's a competitive place out there. Everyone's super busy. I think clients are more focused but also more rushed in our sort of experience or what meetings we're having anyway. And so we want to, as we did on the benchmarking side, create a resource, a safe place where customers, clients, owners, managers can come and find qualified firms who understand what's supposed to happen here to get in compliance with the ordinance, and hopefully beyond that, really use this as a planning tool and getting serious around deep reductions. But the idea here is to create a resource that owners can come to. This has worked very, very well, I'll say, on the benchmarking side. Feedback's been great. So similar process for those of you that are already part of that, and we expect, and that's fine in case that's a question anyone has, we expect and want there to be overlap. So next slide, please. Yeah, kind of covered this. Let's keep moving. So here's a screenshot. As I mentioned, we've done this all. This has been in place on the audits, or excuse me, on the benchmarking side. So this is kind of what it will look like, and we'll show you a demo of a user-driven software tool that we're creating that will drive customers to this. Building and safety will be pointing people to it. So this will be the place. This will be the place where you want to be if you want exposure to opportunities for audit work and EBW. So it's a platform for you to gain some exposure. The firms will be on there in alphabetical order, but we're trying to create some transparency that's also useful and shrink the world a little bit from the owner's perspective. If you look on, for example, the EPA website, or for that matter, SoCalGas even, and are looking for qualified providers, there's just literally thousands. It's not helpful. And it's not sortable in a way that helps me know who really has the local presence, who understands this ordinance. That's what we're creating here. This is a localized resource. So we want you to also be part of those things, because that helps us, say, hey, they're part of the EPA directory, the 1,000 page one, but here's a one-page version that's localized. So you guys who have the local expertise. I will say, I know there's also going to be questions. What if we're not, what if we're new to California? What if we're new to LA? That's fine too. And there's a process for that. But our first cut at this, again, is to create a localized resource that is in a fair way shrinking the world for owners who are our audience with this. So hopefully that makes sense. Next, please. So we will update this on a regular schedule. We've been trying to stick to that the last couple of years. COVID and all of this jazz has made that a little bit, off kilter with our schedule, but moving towards that, putting some structure around things. The deadline is 12/1, so we're trying to move quickly. We're not trying to create for this to be a lot of make work for you guys. We're trying to keep this high level. We're not exercising judgment here. This is just a fact-based process, and we are regurgitating back onto the website figures, basically checking licensure, things of this nature. We're not picking favorites. That's part of how we're going to be able to move quickly. So we want to reduce hassle factor for you guys, create a level playing field, so we don't have firms undercutting the firms like you guys who are here trying to really do what's necessary to support the customers and really realizing their objectives. We don't, and we've seen this in other markets, right, where there have not been clear standards, and let's be honest, there are not clear standards here. There's an opportunity here for people to submit a letter and say an audit was performed, and we're trusting that. We're relying on the licensure, and I think that's a fine way to do things. But this is a low doc process, and so my motivation here is results, not box checking. And so if you're on this directory, it's because you are not box checkers, and we want people hiring folks from this directory who are also not box checkers. And so that's a level playing field, and that's empowering clients. That's streamlining things, because you guys, it just helps you find each other. So we also want to support you in your existing relationships. So this should not feel threatening to you. And I'll talk more about that, how we actually aim to collaborate with you guys to close more business and get more projects done. So that's the timeline we're looking for. Please do hit this, guys. I know everybody's busy, but it's not that bad. Please try to hit this. If you need an extension, we can talk about it, but please hit the deadlines. Next, please. So a few updates I'll get into. Let's jump in. New website. So for those of you who don't check the DBS website every night at 9:30 like I do, they updated it. Just kidding. But they updated it, and it's a lot better. I think they've simplified it a lot. There's a lot of resources there. You should definitely spend some time, familiarize yourself, because there's a lot to this. And it's important that we all try to minimize the number of questions to building and safety about stuff that's on the website, right? We okay, on this call need to actually read it all, because we don't want them to get swamped. There's a lot of buildings, 2,400 buildings trying to comply with this thing. A lot of those are going to be folks who are angry, or low income folks who really need help and need exemptions. So let's not clog the lines with questions that we should be able to answer ourselves. I ask you, please. And I promise the same. And as I said, the deadline is not suspended at this time. So we want to really come out of this with a message that let's move forward and try, and make best efforts to get in by that. They may push it. Who knows what's going to happen with Delta variant? If they do, that's okay. It'll still be reinstated at some point. This is not going to go away completely. And besides that, it's a valuable planning tool. Again, this is something that's a useful exercise, and that's the message that we want to be reinforcing here. So next, please. Yeah, so we have this in a slide, so you just help remember it, underline it, and we'll give you guys a copy of this deck too, that you can use, a PDF, as part of the deal. If you go through this whole process with us, we will give you a package of information, including this. So you have it for reference, but yeah, what if they push it? So move ahead. It's going to count. Whether or not it's due December 1st, or if you're able to get it done by that date, just do it, make best efforts, do a good job, and the incentives are there. I mean, the opportunities on the project side are great, and it's an excellent time to be moving ahead on projects. Things are reopening. All of the incentive programs are open, and they're geared up and taking applications, are being really responsive. So let's move forward. And again, this is a valuable planning tool. Next, please. So a few new things from us. We're trying to support customers, connecting them with resources, and do that in a way that's providing better service, honestly, than they've been getting in the past, right? The last few years have been kind of rough. And everybody wants that to improve. And I really feel like there's structure in place to do that. And I'm really excited about the developments within building and safety, what we've seen of the compliance portal that they have built for this. It exists. It's very robust, and limited in function to enforcement of the ordinance. But it is there, and again, we are working to align with that, feed into that, so that we're as much staying within an ecosystem, right? An experience that makes sense to you guys and your clients, so you're not getting bounced around as much. So we're trying to reduce that. That's the goal. So next, please. So this is our new logo. We are going to be doing a big rebranding. The LA Retrofit Accelerator, LARA for short, is going to pull all of this under one roof, like a one-stop shop. There's been a lot of talk about this for a while. LABBC kind of is that, and the Resource Center kind of is that, but not all the way. And the resources exist, and the information exists in different places. That's not a good experience for the customer or you guys. I don't think. I would welcome your feedback, and we have a survey at the end, how it's been and what you'd like to see, how we can support better. Hopefully we're on the right track. But bringing these resources under one roof, so customers can get educated, engaged, empowered to the next step, whatever that means. So not everybody needs an audit, right? There's a huge chunk of the 12,000 buildings that are covered by the ordinance that don't need an audit. They can go straight through the direct install programs, and actually just go and begin saving energy, having a better building, and not spend any money. So how can we quickly help those guys figure that out? Now, that's not all relevant for you guys. I have more for those of you who are interested, but we've got kind of a mass market, sort of data-driven campaign about to launch in collaboration with the commercial direct install and AC optimization programs. Got some electrification measures in there now, sort of parallel effort. So we've been using this downtime, COVID, and since up to now, whatever we call this, to gear up and put infrastructure in place so that this phase of the ordinance, which is when it really matters, can happen, right, with everything that's going on, and hopefully happen well and generate data that's going to start to make a market. Okay, next, please. So a big part of this that we're also working on is financing. This was something I did a lot of work on back in the day. I guess, I call it EE Finance 1.0, where everyone thought that was going to, including me, unlock a huge a huge chunk of the market. We learned that, you know, we really needed to have a policy driver. That was what was missing. Now that's in place. Now that is sort of kicking into gear, right, as we've been talking about. If we want to get more ambitious, if we want to get to net zero, you know, we see the IPCC report, we see LA 100. How are we going to fund that, right? It's not going to be on charity, I don't think. It's not going to be on ratepayers, I don't think. So we have to find ways to bring private capital in to the solution set. And we're pretty excited about the model that we've been developing with input from a bunch of really smart folks. We're benefiting by not being first in this area, and being able to collaborate with folks in New York, on Washington, DC, and other places who are further along. So talking about a green bank, it's not a bank, but it is an institution that is, you know, purpose-built, a nonprofit, be independent, that will attract, aggregate, deploy capital into projects and work very, very closely. So independent from DWP. This is not DWP. DWP is not going to be a lender, but we're going to work very closely with DWP programs and program implementers and you guys to make sure that we're integrating financing into the conversation early, because we do not have time to let cost be a barrier any longer to projects that make sense. And I think I'm sensing an openness. I wonder if that resonates for you guys, especially as we start talking about these bigger net zero projects. And I'll talk more about that. Actually, let's move ahead. Oh, this next part's cool. So before we do that, yeah, these projects are going to get into the bigger dollar figures, you know, as we talk about big, you know, central plant. So New York Green Bank just launched their New York City Green Bank, NYSEG, launched a PACE financing program, which everyone's like, wow, that's 10 years late. That's how long it took them to get it done. Anyway, it opened. They have a building performance standard, which you guys probably know. Within the first week, they closed a single transaction that was like 98 million. It was almost $100 million, one deal. I think it was a sovereign wealth fund from one of the Arab states. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But they saw PACE now as a way to just take care of it. They saw what the bill was going to be if they did not hit the carbon allowance that was allocated to them in the time, which is by 2030. And they said, you know what, let's bite the bullet. Let's do it now. Let's lead. Let's use someone else's money. So anyway, I think that's a sign that this is changing, and I'm hearing more openness to that here. So let's talk more about that as we go. So over to Heather now. Let's open up. Oh, let me say what this is first. Actually, yeah, go ahead and open it up. So this is the tool I think I mentioned we've been building. We call it Navigator. It's kind of a complicated ordinance, so you guys know. So an automated way to get, you know, consistent answers. If any of you have been trying to get guidance from anyone involved in this, you've probably experienced, you know, some holds or maybe even inconsistencies. This is a tool to reduce that. And also, like I said, free up the city time, because it's not like they've got a million people. Like they're dealing, you know, COVID, even before that, we're dealing with a lean, you know, operation to staff this. If they're tied up with stupid questions about things that people should know, they're not able to do a good job, right? So no surprise if other things don't go well, because they're all wrapped up on this stuff. So this is supposed to reduce that, give people a snapshot, answer the question, the basic question. What am I supposed to do? When am I due? And what's the best first step for me? And if we figure out, and we built the logic in here, that the best step is, you know, you're too far away from the savings goals, you don't have time to get there, you should get an audit. It'll say, boom, go to the directory, and you guys saw, so you'll see, you know, what that looks like. So great. Heather, you want to take it away.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, like Dave said, this is the Navigator tool. And when you first land on the page, you'll be asked to enter in your information, with the most important information being your email and your building ID, which you should have handy for this. So we have an example building ID that's already inputted into it, and it'll draw information from LA Open Data, which has information on that pulls from past benchmarking reports that's already within that data set. And so you'll just click continue to get your building data. And on this page, you'll see that it highlights your performance due date. So for this particular building, it's December 1st, 2025, and also your reporting cycle. And then it also pull your property type. And if this is incorrect in open data, then it also gives you the option of correcting it via a drop-down menu. You just click continue. And so this is a list of all the possible exemptions for the EBE ordinance. And so it lists out each of the exemptions. So the building occupancy, Energy Star certification, percent savings over time, and central cooling system, as well as the details for each of these exemptions. And linked with each exemption is a definitions and resources document that we put together that you can reference as you go through the navigator that will help you answer either the questions or just help you get acquainted with the language. So you'll just click continue, and when you hit continue, you'll be asked to answer a couple of questions to help determine whether or not you qualify for an exemption. So for this particular demo, this building does not or won't qualify for any exemptions. So if this building does have central cooling, it has more than 100 tons of aggregate input capacity for its cooling system. It has been occupied since December 1st, 2020, the beginning of its performance period reporting cycle, and then it has not conducted a level 2 energy audit. And it also gives you the option of correcting your Energy Star score if it's not correct in open data, and also your percent savings. So just hit
Heather, if I could just make a quick note here. Guys, these questions are intended to be written in such a way that a lay person could answer them, ideally, with definitions, but these are helping to interpret the ordinance as it's been revised. So if anyone hasn't seen the revisions, the main important one was to this point about central cooling. That's differentiating between the buildings that can go, like I was saying, to the direct install programs and not have to do an audit. It doesn't make sense necessarily to do an audit. This is helping us figure, do you go that way or do you go towards audits? Then this some of these other questions help us get at eligibility for those DI programs. This 100 tons question comes from the revision to EBWE. So if you guys haven't seen that, that's how DBS sort of set a size threshold. The intent there is to say that the assumption is, I guess, that buildings with less than 100 combined tons of cooling capacity in aggregate are simple enough generally that they merit a more prescriptive approach, don't necessarily benefit from an audit the same way as a building with a cooling capacity higher than that, or with a central plant. So anyway, we're trying to help people determine here per the ordinance, but in as simple of language as we can, so that they could determine for themselves, what do I need to do? What have I, based on what I've done already and sort of the deal here, my lottery ticket, what's next? So sorry, I just wanted to connect that to the ordinance just real specifically. This is great.
Thank you, Dave. And then also, like I said before, it's also linked to the list of definitions and resources that will help you define central cooling or aggregate input capacity, just help you answer the questions as best as you can.
Yeah.
And then continue. And so, like I said, in this particular demo, this building does not qualify for an exemption. So if you did qualify for an exemption, it would tell you which exemption that you qualify for, and then give you next steps on how to pursue that exemption. But for this instance, it tells us that we do not qualify for an exemption based on the answers that we gave in the previous node. So, and then we'll just continue for an even more comprehensive recommendation. And so it's so based on the answers to our question and our Energy Star score and the EUI, it's recommending us to perform an energy audit and retro commissioning. And so it lists again your next performance period, your reporting cycle, as well as how much you would need to raise your Energy Star score. So it does the math for you, and your EUI reduction to meet the requirements. And then, like Dave said before, once the directory of audit and RCX providers has been updated and released, it'll be linked to this end node, this end section, so that different customers can reference it and hopefully reach out and continue. So yeah. And then,
Great. Thank you, Heather. Guys, I know this is a dense, screen that we're looking at, but there's it is pretty stripped back. So you get this also when you finish the session, you get a copy of this in an email with the links and everything. You can also come back to your session. There's a template RFP if anyone needs. I don't think anyone usually uses that. They usually are just kind of less formal. And so we try to make it simple. We are thoughtful about the information that we display online and what we keep on file. What we're trying to do is and actually, Heather, could you go back to the directory to show what we show? I want to make sure I'm clear on that. So we're trying to show the information that will make this actionable and also be kind of fair and provide, again, an on-ramp for newer firms into the market. Two, but the idea being that we want a sense of size and the types of properties that are served, because it's important. We want firms that owners want firms that have worked on buildings like theirs, and so we want to be helpful in that way. The other questions that we're asking, anything that's not, so this is roughly like the kind of stuff we'll show here for you guys. Services offered, types of buildings served. The questions we asked are very simple. Licensure, things like this that we can check in a very objective way. Again, no judgment on any of this. It's just checking the facts and references so that we're taking slack out of the system because people are busy. And then if you want to see that, then we would ask you guys, it's cool if we share that. If someone asks for it, I'm assuming it's yes. We make that easy so that hopefully this is just another channel for you guys as we get a lot of new folks, coming into the fold and looking at doing audits. And if we could go back to the navigator, I just want to also point out that the leads that would be coming out of this would already have been screened. So a building that's gotten to this stage has already been screened. They're not eligible for the direct install approach. They're not eligible. So, and we've determined here that they've got plenty of time here. So we see that this building, just the ID that Heather chose, had a high final digit. So this building's not due till 2025. I've been talking a lot about 2021. This building's not due yet. They have, so show a little bit about how this works. This is a really good example. To get Energy Star, they would have to, I'm looking down a little bit, they would have to boost their score by 20 points. Like if they were due in 2021, there's no way they could do that, right? Without just lying. And there wouldn't be time to get certified or anything. There's logic built into here that says, that's why that's not the first option. Their EUI, they've done pretty well. Well, got to get to 15, they would have to do an additional 11%. If they were doing 2021, probably, that would be unlikely to be achievable. They probably wouldn't have the data. It would be hard to prove, not the best way. So logic is saying, in this case, that's the third preferred option here, that because you have time and you've got till 2025, you are pretty far away from the targets. We think, and this is reflected in the logic of the tool, that you probably benefit from an audit and retro commissioning. You probably knock that 11%, 12% off just through the retro commissioning opportunities that you'll find. And then you'll have a plan, and maybe you could plug away at some of those other CapEx, opportunities, maybe DR, you would have then a plan with this audit and retrocommissioning study to work from between now and 2025 and get additional savings. So that's how we interpret this, right? And so we're basically, instead of the whole thing being a freaking LSAT test, trying to figure out what am I supposed to do? It's like a table. This is building by building. Granted, we can't plug whole portfolios into this, but at least, building by building, you can get a consistent answer. Now, you might disagree with us, whatever, on a where some of the sensitivities or thresholds are and where the logic should be, but it's pretty good, and it takes a lot of meetings, right, and communication out of this basic piece of who's due when and probably what's the best step and who can help me with that. So that'll all be automated, and building and safety will be driving people towards this. We will be driving people towards this, and those of you guys that come with us through this whole process will be receiving hopefully lots of business from this. Okay, next, please. Oh, did we want to show how it links through to the DBS site, Heather? Or is that worth showing? Or
Yes, we could. They would just be taken, because this is a multifamily property.
Oh, let's quickly show just a couple of the other questions if they're there. If they say they want to answer more questions, do you want to show that?
Yes. So if you answer yes, it'll, based on the logic, and based on its property type, it's a multifamily property type, it'll ask whether or not you'll want to answer a couple more questions to determine programs that could help your building. And so a couple of these questions include how many units it is, where the property is located, if you're interested in retrofitting common areas only, or if you're able to relocate tenants, and if it's important for you to control the contractor and equipment selection.
And again, this is screening for fishing for how deep is the customer willing and able to go? Are they a better candidate for a direct install program or a more comprehensive, pay for performance type of program? And then make, again, an educated, warm referral to the next step, which in this case might be, it would be a conversation with us and then onward from there. So in this example that we're continuing here now, the tool has said, you got a long ways to go. If you're trying to get to the savings goals, we recommend you do an audit. But if you'd like to continue and find some more information out about what programs you'd qualify for and the kinds of things you might consider doing while you reach out and hire someone to do the audit, cool, here you go. That's what we're looking at now.
So it'll also ask you whether or not you're interested in, or if there are any income restrictions or deed restrictions on your property, and that will also affect the different programs that are recommended to you based on that. And then also if you have any funding available, if you're planning any other rehab work on your building. So like Dave said, it's asking questions to get to know just your particular situation more. So here are a couple more questions. And then it'll also ask you if any of the residents in your building participate in any of the following state programs, and it links to each of these state programs, and just answer yes or no. Just continue, and then it'll reiterate the previous recommendations to perform an energy audit and retrocommissioning, and based on your answers, we'll also recommend several utility incentive programs that are available based on the answers to the previous questions that we just went through. So including HYPE, ESAP, LIWIP, and MAHEP. And then once you have finished, and you can click here to complete your section, and it'll take you to the Resource Center website.
Thank you, Heather. Um, so as you can see, we're trying to really take a lot of the intake, trying to provide a lot of value in a self-service option that's instant, that's consistent, that's accessible to everyone, but that's also hopefully reducing your cost of customer acquisition, the amount of education that you have to do, giving you something to point to that will help you again, close business and get things moving forward. So I think we had a few more slides. Okay. Is this where we left off? Great. So again, there is this due date. We're talking about the ordinance, but really, I mean, and I hope that you guys are seeing it with your clients. I mean, I'm so excited about everyone else being so excited about this work now. The pledges, the commitment, the action, the money, and the ideas that are flowing now are just inspiring. And we just created a platform to try to let people bring forward, what are you working on? What do you think you could do? What do you think you could do at a building or two that would be really, really cool and would make a difference? And so next slide, we have our inaugural group, and what they've committed to, they already have to have, or as part of this, they make one a public commitment, right? That's at least in line with Paris. I have a feeling that's probably going to be updated soon. Full process transparency, because we want other people to learn from this, so we're all learning, but let's document that. That's part of what we're doing, and DOE and NREL see the other partners involved helping to do. This wedge or bridge analysis, that's to kind of think about, and energy efficiency is the wedge, right? But what's the sort of set of solutions that together, you're optimizing across to get to a net zero carbon outcome. I think I have another slide on that, but yeah, and then working with us to say, what do we learn from this? How can other people short circuit the process on the next one? And the next one, the next one, the next one. Great. So in summary, the ordinance has been updated. Recommend everybody, refresh on it again, but we're going to be bringing a few resources online that will help, so you guys don't have to be answering all these questions a gajillion times. I think we missed a couple slides. There was a slide on, if we could go back to slide, where is it? Oh, it's next steps. Okay, it's after this. Never mind. We'll get to it. Great. Yeah. So I have some more about how we work together. Sorry. Yeah. So again, the deadline is not suspended at this time. There was just a communication that went out. It may have been as recently as yesterday that was a little bit cryptic. Again, so let's not spend time trying to read the tea leaves. Whether or not it is pushed again, it'll count. The work will count. It'll be valuable to do. Whether or not it counts this year or next year, just keep it on file and then develop those opportunities. So there's no risk in moving forward at this point. If you've got clients who've been kind of waiting and do I or don't I? Do is the answer. Building and Safety's portal exists. I've seen it and they're ready to go. We need to try to stick to this deadline so that we have a chance to at least get this out and try to, get some things up within a time frame that it's useful ahead of the 12/1 deadline. If that's pushed, great. But if it's not, we need to get something up ASAP. So please do try to stick to this. We've really made efforts to try to make it a reasonable process. I hope we're successful there. I think we have a couple more slides. Yes. So next steps. We, like I said, we want to be a resource for you as well as your clients. And so take advantage of the resources that we're providing. Let us help you reduce your costs. And I see some questions coming in. Thank you, Seth. We want to grow the challenge. We're one of the biggest programs, but we want to keep growing it. And building sign pledges. You guys probably experience this, or do an audit and then don't do anything, right? I'm sick of that. So I want buildings signing up that are serious. And so if you guys have clients that are doing exciting things, we want to hear about it. And so we really want to collaborate with you guys. Listed firms will receive. So any of you guys that do GRESB stuff, we want this to work kind of like that, where like GRESB will support you in, and we have to put some limits on this because, it can't be everywhere, right? And there may be, it would be unmanageable. But commit to at least one, strategic client meeting with each of you. If you would like to bring us in as a third party, we're funded by the utilities. We work with all these different people. If we can help you sell a big idea, help you with a business case, bring people into the Better Buildings Challenge. I mean, let's fully collaborate. But so that's unlimited. If you're bringing people in, there's no limit on that. But if you're asking, for me or one of my team to come out, we got to put a limit on that. We will also do a supplemental training. So we've got a lot of folks on today, but of course everyone can't be here. That's not efficient. We are recording this, so it will make the slides and everything and the recording available to you. But I will also offer, for those of you that complete the process, that we'll do an individualized training for your team. It would be remote, but we could do with your sales team, your biz dev team, however you want that to structure, we'll do that. You can also record that and answer any questions you have about, specific to your business and how we can support you here. We'll also, just for everyone who completes, again, the process and becomes listed in the directory, we'll get a branded marketing toolkit so that you stand out. You can use it. We'll have an email signature that you can use. You don't have to use it. We will have widgets you can put on your website. We're going to try to, help you stand out for the commitments that you make working together with us. So I cribbed that entire idea from Dan at GRESB. So thank you, sir. Well done over there. I really like what they're doing. And so I hope that that's a benefit for you all and an enticement to go through the process. So I think we have one more reminder slide, and then this is key contacts. I won't go through this now, but it's a reminder where to go for what. We have a pretty clear division of labor now. So and again, you see, we're trying to just automate and reduce traffic right into building and safety and DWP specifically, so they can focus on just getting stuff done and not with this stuff. So last slide. Okay, cool. Let's open it up for questions. We will have a survey. Actually, Madhavi, if you could drop that. I think you were going to drop that into the chat now. So cool. There's a survey in the chat, guys. If you could please take a sec to do that. Tell us how we did and what else you'd like to get. And then I see some questions coming in the chat. All right, cool. Can you explain more about the application process for the service provider list? Is the application really due tomorrow? Yes, it's really due tomorrow. We've sent a few emails. So you guys, I believe, I'll talk to you I'll talk to you separately. We'll work it out. We need to set a deadline to keep things moving. So I know that it's tight. Ty asked, will we be sending notices out to building owners? If yes, when will notices go out and by which channel? Email, snail mail, etc. The answer is we have not. So we have not done anything as far as notifying folks. Building and safety, however, has, and I think they have sent 2 now, if not 3 total notifications about the 12/1 deadline. Renee, is it 2? They just sent the one
I
yesterday.
believe I believe it's 2. And the notification that was sent yesterday, it was an email, and it was stating the same information as the earlier notice. So we're happy to share that with everyone. It was general, just stating that the deadline still stands, and
Yeah.
it may be extended if the emergency goes beyond August.
Yeah. Would it be possible for us, Renee, to include a copy of that with the follow-up
Sure.
from this webinar?
Absolutely.
Great. So that way anyone who hasn't seen it has a reference. And so we have not wanted to get ahead of where the city was. So we're trying to be careful not to be alarmist, but now that we have the certainty, now that the city has issued official communication, we are now trying to move quickly. So Seth, that's why we're trying to now move quickly, because I had thought we might have more time, and we'll accommodate you guys. Again, we're not trying to make this a huge exercise here. It's mostly uploading stuff that you guys should have, copies of handy. So nothing major. Once this all gets going, we're gonna be blasting. So we have a full Salesforce database that's been revamped. We've been collaborating with econometrics and sort of AI teams at UCLA to build that out, and Lawrence Berkeley Labs filling gaps in the EBW data and pre-qualifying, actually running simulations to pre-qualify customers for the direct install programs. Again, trying to peel off all the buildings that are covered who are not part of this, who are not covered by the audit and RCX requirement. Let's get them help. Let's get them going, because CDI does $500 million a year. Well, that's a $500 million program, not per year. It's a $500 million program. They could do a lot of scale. So let's get the volume over here and the other buildings over to you guys. So we will be pumping the messaging once everything is in place. We do not want to be doing that on the tail end of a pandemic and with a deadline that's honestly very short notice, we recognize. So my advice is, just do your best, make a good faith effort to get through, the data collection process and build a model so that you can submit the form. Renee, do we know when or have a sense, when should people check back for the building and safety portal to be live so that they could actually see the forms or anything?
Yeah,
do you have a sense? I forgot to ask.
I expect that'll be early September.
Okay. So check back, guys. We have an email. Well, there's the ways to keep in touch with us. We'll be communicating with you guys more, of course. But as new things come up, that's another benefit of being part of this, is you'll be first to hear, as we do, developments from building and safety or mayor's office or DWP. There's another question. Joel asked, who is responsible for completing ARCX in a triple net lease setup where the building owner who has no responsibility for the cost tenant controller? So net lease scenario. So the owner is the one who has to comply with the ordinance. So in net lease spaces, that is weird. It's something that has to be worked out. You could say, the tenant's the one that's going to gain from any efficiency gains, but legally speaking, the owner is on the hook for compliance. So be happy to talk further offline about sort of specific circumstances. We're doing some more, peace brokering between owners and tenants lately on this kind of stuff. So if we can help, maybe this is one, where you take us up on our meeting, offer here. But yeah, that's a common one. Owner's responsible, tenant's going to see the benefit. We got to work it out. Another question, will they have a pending status for buildings that are in contract, but the audit is not complete by 12/1? That is a great question. Renee, I think that's a really reasonable idea, a really good idea that we should suggest, or question we should ask.
Yeah,
About
we can raise that.
Yeah.
It also probably maybe helpful to kind of speak to what type of documentation is required there.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if we have a slide on it. Building and Safety has articulated a process, and actually for an extension, that's pretty clear. And I think that would probably be the best route, is to, yeah, excuse me, I almost misspoke. That process is documented. There's an FAQ on it of how to apply for an extension. And we will elevate this question or encourage you to submit it directly to DBS. It's a great question.
You can go in and provide payment separately. So you basically, are able to go into the building profile and provide payment, and then it's not complete until you've submitted the attestation that the work, that audit was completed.
Right.
So we should clarify, you don't actually submit the audit to the city, you just provide an attestation that it was completed.
That's correct. So yes, there was some discussion about, what exactly, and a need for clarification about what exactly gets submitted to the city. Is it a copy of the whole audit? Is it some exerted portion of it? And the decision or the interpretation of the ordinance that has been made is that it's an attestation, as Renee said, from the engineer of record or the registered architect, that an audit in RCX was performed that meets the language of the ordinance. And it's very direct. The language mirrors the ordinance very directly. So I'd recommend looking at the ordinance, and it's a very strict interpretation of that. But as Renee said, as with the benchmarking, it's kind of a two-part thing. You pay the fee, that's one part. And then this second part is submitting the actual, instead of the benchmarking report, here we're talking about the audit and RCX attestation, or it'll be a similar process for another of the exemptions. It's an attestation and perhaps some supporting documentation, depending on what it is. So that'll all be clearly outlined. And the navigator tool that we saw, if someone qualifies for an exemption, it'll send them that way. If they're, think they have all the documentation they need, they don't need to talk to anyone. They don't need to have any more questions or hire anyone or do anything. We'll take them right to the DBS compliance page with a list of what they'll need in order to just comply that way. So again, trying to really make this simpler, reduce the number of inquiries, so we can focus on the meaty ones, like you guys are bringing up really good questions. Anything else, guys? Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you all again for joining this afternoon. We're really excited about this. It's been a long time. I know that you guys have all been working your butts off and probably doing a lot of tap dancing, as we have, waiting for this to sort of click. And, just know that we've been working really hard in this downtime to try to set this whole thing up to really now go. So, let's do it, guys. Let's do it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Any questions, please reach out. We'll get all this materials to you. And thanks again, guys. Really looking forward to working together. All right.